Now, we're more than a year and a half away, but the 2024 presidential election is already gaining steam, with the battle to protect life emerging as a key campaign issue. Well, given the massive opportunity the Supreme Court paved the way for last June to protect the unborn, how should conservative leaders advance such measures? Well, join me now by phone to discuss this and more is Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Senate Judiciary Committee, where he is the ranking member. Senator, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you so much for all you've done on this cause. I appreciate it.
Well, I played a clip of you yesterday on CNN. The State of the Union, you are not backing up. Some Republicans are kind of hiding from this issue after the midterm. You have been consistent on this, saying this is an issue we need to talk about.
Well, yeah, Tony, when you look at the world, I mean, what kind of America do you want to live in? 50 of 53 European nations, I'm talking about Europe here, have limits on abortion at 15 weeks or less. North Korea and China allow abortion on demand up to the moment of birth. And no matter what the Democratic Party tells you, their bill, the Women's Health Care Protection Act, whatever you call it, allows abortion on demand up to the moment of birth with taxpayer funds. Most Americans are very supportive of the idea of banning late-term abortions. My bill is at 15 weeks. We know science tells us that a baby has a developed heart, lungs, feels pain at 15 weeks. And like the civilized world, I'd like to draw the line there. And to my Republican colleagues, if we can't muster the courage post-Dobbs to tell the country that we are against late-term abortion, then we've lost our way.
So, Senator, the heartbeat bill, in fact, Governor DeSantis in Florida signed that into law last week. That's a 6-week measure.
Right.
The fetal pain bill that you're talking about, 15 weeks. I mean, this is when a child is basically in the womb sucking its thumb. It can feel pain. These are not extreme positions that you're advocating for. So I want to ask 2 questions of you. Number one, I want to talk about some of your Republican colleagues who are now saying, after 4 decades of championing the unborn and the need for a constitutional amendment to protect life from the moment of conception, now to saying this is a state's issue and we don't need to deal with it in Washington, D.C. How do you respond to that?
Well, I respond very negatively. It's a human rights issue. Under my legislation, Tony, states can be more restrictive, right? The 6-week bill in South Carolina and Florida, that's okay. But at 15 weeks, we draw a line as a nation. Why do we do that? Because at 15 weeks, almost 4 months, the baby is well developed, can feel pain, and we don't want to be a barbaric nation like North Korea and China. So, they tried this states' rights approach to slavery. It was in my state, to be honest with you. What did we learn over time? That owning human beings in one state is bad for the country as a whole. Here's what I think. America needs to get right on this issue, no matter where you're conceived, where it's in Massachusetts, California, Ohio, Maryland, Oregon, no matter where you're conceived, at 15 weeks, you're a well-developed unborn child that can feel pain. We're to draw the line there as a nation. And to my Republican colleagues, Dobbs did not take the pain away from the child. I'm against late-term abortions before Dobbs and after Dobbs. I've always been that way. Nothing the court did makes it any better for the baby at 15 weeks to be dismembered. So it's not a states' rights issue at all. To me, it is a human rights issue.
Let's talk for just a moment about the issue that others are bringing up within the Republican Party, saying that politically, this is a losing issue for us. Look what happened in the 2022 midterm election. How do you respond to this as being a liability issue?
Well, when you look at where America is, so at 15, 20 weeks, late-term abortions, about 70% oppose. The candidates like J.D. Vance and Ted Budd and others who said, I will stand up for the unborn child to make sure they're not dismembered when they can feel pain, all won. The reason we're not doing as well as we should is we don't engage. You saw me on CNN. I have absolutely no problem looking any Democrat or any journalist in the eye and say, that when you allow abortion on demand up to the moment of birth with taxpayer funding, that's barbaric. The American people are with us, but we got to stand up and fight. Ronna McDaniel has been absolutely awesome. I'm trying to set a minimum federal standard, national standard. You can do more at the state level. You can go regulate abortion at, like we talked about with Florida. But at 15 weeks, we draw a line. We stop the barbaric dismembering of the child that can feel pain. We will win this issue if we engage. Because when you ask the Democrat, what limits do you have, they will never give you an answer.
Senator Graham, I think the evidence suggests that you're absolutely right. When you look at the midterm election and you look at the amount of money spent by Democrats to promote their position on abortion, or actually really to attack the Republicans and misconstrue their position, they spent $358 million. This is according to the Politico. Republicans spent $37 million discussing the issue. So if you don't engage and you don't talk about what
right.
your position is, you're not going to win. You're not going to win the debate.
Well, okay, let's say you're on a debate stage for the Democratic opponent, and the issue of abortion comes up. The answer is not build a wall. The answer is that if I go to Congress, I will make America like the civilized world, not China, not North Korea. I will vote to limit late-term abortions, turn to your opponent, and ask them, what would you do when it comes to the rights of the unborn, to a baby that is well developed that can feel pain? When do you draw the line, if you draw it at all? If you'll engage that Democrat, they will stumble all over themselves, or they'll get the left mad if they have limits. So it is a winning issue only if you fight back.
Right. And you and I have discussed this before. You and I have discussed where we stand on the issue of life. This is about building consensus. I'm pro-life from the moment of conception on, and I think every child conceived in America should be protected under our laws. But we also understand that we have to build consensus. And as you pointed out, there's consensus on a bill that would protect unborn children from the point that they feel pain and they're sucking their thumb. There's 70% consensus. So that's a good starting point. And I'm going to continue to talk to your colleagues in Congress to say this is a place we need to be. It's not something we need to run from. Senator, I want to very quickly, I got 2 minutes left. I want to transition to another topic. You and I have spent a lot of time talking about foreign policy. I was in Sudan right before COVID shut the world down, meeting with the prime minister there before that country began to fracture. We're now seeing the fourth embassy in 2.5 years having to be evacuated under the Biden administration. Does their foreign policy and their weakness that's being portrayed internationally have anything to do with this?
Yeah, I think so, Tony. Sudan was on the terrorist watch list, and under Trump, it actually got off. You gotta have people have to have confidence in you. Afghanistan withdrawal, which was a debacle and shameful, started this. Nobody trusts America anymore. Here's what I would tell the Sudanese: any group that harms one hair on an American's head, we will come after you and hunt you down to the ends of the earth. That's the only thing people over there understand. So if you want to protect Americans, you got to be strong, not weak.
Well, I hope that they get that message, and I hope we have an administration that will absolutely follow up with that. Senator Lindsey Graham, always great to talk with you. Thank you again for standing firm on the sanctity of human life.
Thank you. We're not going to give in. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina.